So today we have a special treat for us because we love mobile home parks and nursing, and he's in a band. Come on. What more could you ask for? Oh, yeah. His name's Tim Woodbridge.
Tim Woodbridge. So we talk shop about mobile home parks and investing and community. He's in a community that I'm very familiar with. I'm not in, but very familiar with the person who runs that. And he talks how valuable it is to get around people that are doing a lot of things and get around people that are going to motivate you.
And even though he's doing mobile home parks, that definitely applies to anyone. And there goes my light. Night, night. Tim Woodbridge, enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Investing RN podcast. Today we're here with Tim Woodbridge, who's a retired nurse at this point and a mobile home park investor out of South Carolina. That's not a secret there for your mobile home parks. But we're going to be talking to him today about nursing and mobile home parks and why he likes the space and why he's now a retired nurse. So, Tim, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me on. I would have worn scrubs, but I just moved and I actually just donated all my scrubs to Goodwill because it's been 2 years. So
that's a good feeling, right?
Yeah. I definitely held on to them longer than need be, but I was like, what if, and who knows, right?
Yeah. So tell us about nursing, how you got into it, your journey through nursing, kind of where you worked in the hospital. And what ultimately, I guess we'll just start with that, like your whole nursing journey, I guess.
Yeah. So I didn't want to go be a nurse and I had no idea about it. I remember taking human biology and being fascinated by it in little community college. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go get a bachelor's of science in nursing and then that'll open up other things. And I didn't really want to be a nurse, but I went through school. I enjoyed it. And I did it and I liked it. I like people. I like human biology. It's fascinating to me. And so I did it for, 10 years, 9 years probably. But, let's see, I was in hospitals and tele and stepped down and worked at an LTAC, did a little outpatient dialysis, a little bit, no onc, no peds, no NICU, none of that. No ED either. Emergency department never was my thing. I mean, I did it for a while. I did it because it was safe, and it is. It's a safe career, or it was at the time, right? That's debatable now. It whatever. That's could be a long conversation, I'm sure, but it was a safe, well-paying job, and I grew up with my dad, who is just a hard worker. He still works. He's 72, I think, 71. He just turned 71 and he still works because he is a hard worker and that's what he does. And so, I was looking for that good, solid job and I went into nursing and I loved it. It did a lot of good for me. There were goods and bads, but there's goods and bads with any job. But from there, I went and found real estate. No one really in my family knew anything about investing. Again, my dad worked hard, but he saved. He saved. It's not really a great way to build wealth, but that's, what I saw. And so when I moved to South Carolina 6 years ago, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that just opened my world because asset and liability were two new words to me at the time. I never really heard that. All I knew was work and, put money into 401ks or 403Bs, depending on the hospital, right? It opened my world. So here I am.
Yeah. So you mentioned saving your way to wealth is not really the way to do it. I don't know why, but for some reason, most people, well, I say most people, myself, so I assume that I'm kind of most people, we think the only way to make more money is to go back to school and keep learning in classroom type setting. But all of the richest people that I follow now and I try to learn from, a lot of them don't have a college degree. A lot of them don't really even have much of a education, but they figured out early on that, buying assets is the way to build your own wealth.
Well, I mean, why do you think that is? You're the CRNA. You're the one who went back to school, right? Well, because so that's kind of just what we were told. And, it's interesting. I was at a local real estate meetup maybe 6 months ago, and a friend of mine was bringing up the idea of why people save. And, you know, you go back like a few generations, and it was so big because you got whatever, the Great Depression and stuff like that. People had nothing. And so like saving became the mindset. And it was so cemented that it was, you know, my parents' generation, the baby boomers, that was their mindset too, because it was drilled into them. And so that's all they knew. And so they drilled that into me and, or my dad, you know, drilled that into me, save, save, save. It's like the safe way to do it without like looking at all the things surrounding, you know, like the whys. Why should I save or why should I not save? I mean, it's just a societal thing, you know, people telling you what to do. If this is what everyone's doing, then I'm probably going to do that. I'm going to go get a safe job. I'm going to go to school because everyone says go to school. I'm going to get that safe job. I'm going to have that safe career. And so many people are living by things that worked 50 years ago and that don't work as well today. You know, the crazy thing is, let's see, I started nursing. I worked at a hospital for 2 years. I transferred to a different hospital, got a substantial pay increase. And then I transferred back, like 9 months later, I transferred back to that same hospital and got another substantial pay increase, so much that I was working side by side with people I started with, and I was making a lot more. So the thing that like my dad and that generation talked about, like get a good job at one company, keep that job, 401k, save, blah, 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 blah. It just doesn't work in the same way that it used to. So you gotta move with the times.
I'm seeing that a lot more now, and I don't know if it's a generational thing or not, but I think our generation realizes that loyalty doesn't really pay anymore. Like I'm sure at some point it did, and that's why the theme was to stay at your employer, you get a pension, you get all these advantages, but now it doesn't really pay. And I actually am in a similar situation. Like I wasn't afraid to go find a better paying job, and I was able to double my salary within just a few short years. Whereas if I stayed in the same place, you get the 1-2% raise if you're lucky. If you push for it, you don't get anything you don't ask for. So I think Colin said that you're retired. So you're not still working as a nurse at all anymore, are you?
No. I 2 years, September 17th was 2 years.
Yeah. What did that look like? What led you to leave the bedside? Or
so it was scary. It was super scary. And it was scary for a year and a half after that, right? Because there's ups and downs. I had money saved. So I had a condo. I sold the condo at like the peak of the market, and I had a bunch of cash, and it's just me and you know, no kids, no wife, nothing. So it was relatively easy to do, to take like that big risk, you know? And I just said, like, I don't like this anymore. I've got, you know, at that point I had one mobile home park. I was getting another one. I got the other one, I think then like month after I quit or so. And I was like, you know, I need to spend time on real estate. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I like. If I don't do this now, I'm going to regret it. And I don't like, you know, living with stuff like that. That's why I came to South Carolina. I didn't know anything about it other than my brother was here, but I knew if I didn't move, I was going to regret it. And it was like one of the best moves I've ever made. So, yeah, it was scary though. You know, I did a venture that 100% didn't work because I was used to paychecks. I was used to, you know, consistent cash. And so I went, yeah, I love mobile home parks and that's all I really want to do. But I was like, I need quicker cash. So I did a lot, or I tried to do single family wholesaling and failed because I love the idea of making a ton of money. I don't love the process of wholesaling. I really don't. So, you know, I lost a lot of money in marketing and VAs and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I learned a lot. I learned a lot, like what it's like to not have a job and what it's like everyone only sees the upside, but there's a lot of downside in that, like, well, there's a lot of what the hell am I going to do with my day? And like, how can I best be productive? And a lot of existential dread and a lot of like, am I doing the right thing? And, you know, going against the grain, like this is so weird. And it did, like, it took me a year and a half to really get like my stride. And so, yeah, I loved it. I'm glad I did it, but man, it's not all roses.
Yeah. And when you decided to leave nursing, had you already replaced your income? Or, I mean, you said it was scary, so I'm assuming you didn't fully replace that income. So what did that look like? How did you manage that?
I had some coming in from like my first park. I was taking like a 5% management fee, but mostly I just had some like cash in the bank, and I just kind of figured it out. Like, to be honest, at the beginning of this year, I was looking for another nurse job because I was like, dude, I'm not making any money and I've run out of savings. And so, I went on some interviews and whatnot. But like that led me to semi happenstance closing on like a big portfolio, mobile home park portfolio. From there, like I took an acquisition fee because I was like, man, I need to live and like I want to keep doing this. And in order to do that, I need to start paying myself. So closed on that, closed on another portfolio with the same partners. And it's just like everything I do now, I'm going to take the 5% management fee because I do all in-house management. I have VAs to help and whatnot. That 5% doesn't go towards like the VAs or towards like all the other stuff needed to do it. It's just me paying myself so I can live. Because man, it gets annoying doing work without paying yourself. It was exciting the first 2 years. And then after that, I was like, I've got to do something smarter.
I think we could relate really well to that. We've been going for about 3 years and have yet to pay ourselves really. I mean, aside from like, selling we sold a home and paid ourselves, but it was really just paying ourselves back the money that we had invested. So it wasn't like any real gain, but yeah, it's definitely hard. And I kind of did the same thing, leaving nursing without, I guess, a real plan. So it was just like kind of winging it for a while. And even now it's like, I have those moments where I'm like, I still get the emails from travel nurse companies and I'm like, oh man, this contract is like $3,000 a week. And I think like for me, I just miss like that safety that having that W-2 job provides. Is there anything other than that you miss about nursing?
I miss the people. I miss friends. Another interesting thing is that when you leave, at least for me, when I left, I lost contact with a lot of friends, and not like in a negative way. It's just, I've grown distant from people. Like my life has taken a different turn versus theirs. So I miss them, I miss the perceived safety because now, 2 years out, I recognize it's perceived safety. It feels good, but like there's nothing really safe. And not in a bad way, in a matter of fact way. There's nothing super safe, but not working has made me realize no matter what happens, I will figure it out. I'm not going to go starve under a bridge. I'm not going to, I'm going to figure it out. If I have to go get another nursing job, sweet, I'll totally go do that. But whatever happens, I will figure it out. And that is something that, having a job, you don't get to flex that muscle or work that muscle where it's like, everything's so scary because you haven't done anything. I think maybe people need a little bit more scary in their lives to get a little bit more anti-fragile. Oh
yeah. Have you kept your nursing license current, like as a backup plan, or did you just let it lapse?
Yeah. It's yeah. I don't want to go back to nursing, but come on. Like it'd be silly not to, is what I think.
That's the same for me. And it's like, even just seeing those emails and knowing that those contracts are out there and will always be out there and will probably be even more lucrative coming up here in the next, 5 to 10 years. It's just such a nice, just nice to know that it's there if you ever do need it. And you can get it quick. It's like within a couple weeks or a month at most, you could be making a couple $1,000s a week again. So it's like, you can be a little more adventurous, I think.
Yeah. And I'm sure if I went back, it'd be like, when I had my nursing gig and it was my first park and I was like, we got 7 brand new homes in, and I was like looking to get them filled with people. And so like in between stuff, I'd be like on my phone and like talking to different people who are looking to get in homes. So I'd be hustling still, man. I'd be hustling.
So let's dive into how you were introduced into business and into investing. Like talk to us how you even had the thought of investing in some sort of property.
So yeah, I mean, I was talking about happening upon Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it was honestly a happen upon sort of thing, because I had seen it as a teenager. I worked at Target and I saw that book all the time. And so like, 15 years later, I'm like moved to South Carolina. I'm getting into reading again, and like really Audible. I discovered Audible. So I'm going through books like crazy, and I picked that up, and Rich Dad Poor Dad. And again, asset liability, holy crap. Like my brain is like exploding. And so I just did a deep dive. I found Bigger Pockets. I read Brandon Turner's stuff. I read everything about real estate I could really get my hands on. And then there was an episode with Frank Rolfe on it. Brandon Turner was interviewing Frank Rolfe, who's a really, really big mobile home park investor. And I was like, this, I like this, It's a little alternative. It's a little different than everyone else is doing. It's a little weird. Like I'm a little weird, I feel. It's, I like it because it's, you have a lower expense ratio. You have people who are taking care of their own homes. You got stickier tenants, and you're just renting dirt out. And I was like, yeah, I like that. And so, from there, I just did a little bit more research, not a whole ton, because I am definitely a action first, and then like do the broad level of research and then take action and then figure out like how I'm going to do it as I'm going. And so, Frank said, check out mobilehomeparkstore.com. That's, his partner's website. So I looked at that. There was a park that had been on market for a while, maybe 6 months. And I reached out to so it was like an hour and a half from me in Charleston, South Carolina. And so called the guy up and had a good conversation. And it was scary, everything was scary. So just if y'all are new, accept that everything's going to be scary, and that's okay. You just recognize it's scary and then move with it, So yeah, I had a great conversation. The owner was a retired pharmacist. So already there's a little bit of, rapport building right there. Went and visited his park, and I had never been to this small town in South Carolina. And like, I'm from Southern California, from the city. So that scared the crap out of me a little bit too. But he was like super nice, super kind. He showed me his park, just asked a lot of questions. And, based on like Frank Rolfe's, based on like, okay, this is your lot rent. This is how many occupied lots. Like, this is how much you can expect to pay. And so he wanted way more than what Frank Rolfe's calculation was. And so I just went, I said, because of this, and this, I can only offer you this. And he said, no. He said, no. And he said, but I can't go any lower than this. And I said, okay, if I can get you that number, can we do a deal? And he said, yeah, I'll sell it to you for that. And I was so green, I didn't even have any other contracts. I had like one contract for the price that I wanted, and that's it. I didn't have anything for him to sign. So he 100% could have been like gone back on his word. But he's a great guy, and he didn't. He's old and Southern, and he's all about his word, which I love. I love being in the South because of that. Like it's important, like it's stuff like that. Old time kind of stuff like that is very important, I feel. But so it was very difficult. It was 10 of 36 spaces occupied. No bank wanted to touch it. What eventually happened is the seller hooked us up with a friend of his he grew up with, who is a vice president of a local bank. And the vice president gave us 70% loan to cost. The seller carried 20% in interest only for a year. And then we brought we brought 10% plus closing costs to close. So it was me and a partner. Well, it was me and two partners, and one partner ended up screwing us over, but that's another long, stupid story. But, it happens. It's like the same thing. I'm glad that I took the action. I definitely could have listened to my gut and not closed it with that partner, but you learn through all the craziness that life throws at you sometimes. So
we can understand, because I think when we start talking about these deals that we got, and especially the first one, actually, in our first mobile home park deal was a similar structure. It was a 80% bank loan and a 20% seller carry. So we got it for essentially no. Funny enough, on that one, we were supposed to pay for the appraisal and the legal fees, but like at the time, I think earlier I mentioned being cash poor. We wrote the check for the appraisal and like hadn't transferred the money in our accounts, and the check bounced. So thankfully, like the bank was cool, and he was like, "Yeah, so your check bounced, so I'm just gonna wrap your appraisal fees into your loan." So we came out of pocket like I think $800 or $1,000 for the legal fees, and owned a mobile home park like on a lake in Wisconsin, 20 pad park, and we were just like, "Wait, what?" Like, I think that day it was just like, and it appraised. I think we bought it, and it appraised for $160,000 more than we bought it for the day we closed. And we're just like, wait, what? Like,
hey, dude, you guys beat me then. Your $800 out of pocket beats my personal like 6,200 or so for closing costs. So
it's because you didn't strategize. You need your check to bounce. That's strategy number one.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do that from now on. And whenever anyone gives me a hard time about it, I'm going to give them your guys' numbers. I hope that's okay.
Good.
Yeah, just we know this guy. Like they do this all the time. Like,
yeah.
It's kind of cool. And I think like for us at the time, I mean, we could have raised the money, but it was like being able to do it that way allowed us to get this park with essentially no money out of pocket and without having to bring on partners. And I know you're using partners for some of your deals, but can you just kind of talk us through some of the ways you've done some of these deals, either with partners or just creative financing, or how you're getting these things?
Sure. So that was my first deal, where my partner brought the 10%, and I brought the closing costs. The second deal, I paid $25,000 for an equity stake in a friend's deal. So like it was just an equity swap. A couple people were getting out. Me and a friend were getting in. And then the third deal was one of the same people who were in that second deal. Their friend is a wholesaler, so we bought that. They brought all the cash. I did what I'm best at. So I'm best at operations and running parks. So that's that. And then we got 4 parks in a portfolio this year, all like super creative, right? So using a bank for like a down payment, and then the seller carrying everything else. So I'll one up you guys with the $800 and say I got I think $180,000 cash at close for not to myself, but like to the business. So yeah, how about that? Ha 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 ha! I win.
You got it. By a few dollars. That's good.
Yeah, just a few. And then like I got another 2-park portfolio that was like, my partners brought in someone with cash. I mean, it's a great deal. They're going to get a great return on their investment. I think I want to say projected like 2.6 equity multiple in 5 years. But yeah, it's like, how can we create win-wins? And in this environment, there's so many people who are like, this environment sucks, interest rates, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, what number does work? Or like maybe it's not what price works, but like what financing works, Okay, you're getting a bank loan for this. Like, can the seller carry any of that and make your blended cost of capital cheaper? Like, don't give up is what I'm saying, For everyone who's like complaining now, it's like, no, this is exciting. This is good. What I didn't like is the last couple years where interest rates were so low and everyone was doing highest and best. That's where I'm not a great highest and best kind of person, because I feel like I'm going to lose there. I'm good at, hey, we can't sell this So like, let's figure out how we can sell it. That's what works for me, man.
You mentioned getting the $180,000 back at close, and we were just at WealthCon recently, and we were talking to somebody that's in the Pace Morby Subject 2 group, and he was talking about the Morby method, which is like kind of sounds like maybe what you did, where you're using like the DSCR loan for like a down payment, and then the seller financing the rest of it. Did you do something like that? And then also, since I mentioned DSCR, can you explain what the DSCR loan is?
I'd have to think back to that. So it was a hard money loan, actually, I got. So yeah, like a DSCR, so debt service coverage ratio, where, your banks are looking for, like, take your net operating income, divide it by your annual debt service, and that'll give you your DSCR. It used to be, banks want to see 1.2 at least. And now they're more like 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. So think of a bank's game. The bank's game is safety. The bank isn't like, I need to make this giant spread. The bank wants to make a little bit of a spread on 1 million deals. And every one of those 1 million deals needs to be super safe. So the higher interest rates go, the more uncertain the market is, the more banks want that higher DSCR to ensure their safety or the safety of their loan, their capital. So yeah, I got hard money, had the seller carry. So we overpaid by the 180,000. It's not like, this 180,000 comes out of nowhere. It's like we overpaid in the long term for that. But with that money, we are putting into the parks to increase the value. So we're bringing in new homes. We're doing a lot of landscaping, doing a lot of road work, doing a lot of stuff that needs to be done. That was the one I took the acquisition fee of. So I took that acquisition fee to myself again, because I was like, I need to live. Just really having that money there. Sure, like, again, it's not like it's free. It's not like it came out of nowhere. But when we go to refi, because we are doing a value add, the refi will be able to pay off all the promissory note from the seller who held a lot. The hard money lender was like, hey, like, we can give you more. And I was like, no, I want less, because the interest rate's so high. And like, I need to sleep at night. I don't negative cash flow. That's not what I do. I want to say I got like a 40% loan to cost of the parks, if not 35 to 40%. I'd have to look at the numbers again, but something where it's like the DSCR was at least 1.5, at least, if not more, to be honest. So, yeah, I like a comfortable amount of space, I don't like to push it like to the edge, because I like to sleep.
So let's talk about what your day looks like now. So you've stepped away from nursing, you're doing this full time. What do you spend time doing, and how are you building your business at this current point in time?
So I have to totally give a shout out to Brian Lubin and the Action Academy podcast. Actually, that's right. I'm going to shout out a podcast on a podcast.
We're fans, so it's okay.
I'm very familiar.
Yeah, he's so good. I joined Action Academy, and he's great at simplifying things. So, you leave nursing, or I left nursing, and I was like, what do I do now? There's a million things that vie for your attention all the time. And what he says, he's like, if you could only do 3 things that are going to move the needle, just do those. And so I got a checklist, and my day is look for one deal and like either put out an LOI, talk to a broker, whatever. So do that on one deal a day. And then the next thing I do is work on my SOPs for my in-house property management company business. So basically the first one's getting a new deal. The second one's tending the deals I have. And then the third thing I do is like exercise and eat well. And also like spend time with my girlfriend, like have date nights, have, the tough conversations, like weekly tough conversations. So like that third thing, it's not eating well and exercising is just about every day. But like the date night, we don't go on date nights all the time, but it's ensure that I'm doing this throughout the week. So it's getting more done by doing less,
That's great. Were you just in Mexico on his retreat out there, or was that Costa Rica?
That was Costa Rica. I am going to be in Mexico though. I think in February, I want to say it is. Shout out to Yaden and Jennings Smith for the deal room, my first million in multifamily. A lot of after nursing, like what helped was getting in rooms of people doing things. And like, I love multifamily. Yeah, my niche is mobile home parks, but that's in the multifamily category. But just being around people doing stuff really helped guide me. Yeah, so getting around people doing the things that you want to do is so important. Why would I expect to succeed without that? I mean, in nursing, what I love about nursing is that if you have an issue, you can talk to so many different people that you're on shift with, and we're all going through the same thing. And there's so many people who are there to help. And if you get someone who's like, no, I'm not going to help, that's fine. You go to the next person who's going to help. So it's like a family sort of thing. I feel like if I wasn't part of the deal room, like I would have felt a lot more lost than I felt. So definitely, if you're leaving, get around people doing the things you want to do.
Yeah, I think that's huge because like you mentioned before, I think that's one of the things that I've noticed since being out of the hospital. It's like you lose this huge group of friends. And yeah, like, I mean, the collaboration in the hospital, I mean, obviously there's some element of like, what they call it, eating your young in the hospital, but there's definitely like, especially, I worked in any of the units, but I worked in the ER. So it's like you had to collaborate, and you had, you're working hand in hand with doctors, nurses, techs, like everyone, firefighters. So it's like that collaboration is so huge, and just being around other people with more experience, people with less experience. It's like, it makes work a lot easier. And then you're going to have a better outcome if you're actually like working together as a team. So I think that's huge, especially as people venture out from nursing that's so heavy in that into this very lonely path of becoming an entrepreneur, and whatever it is, whether it's real estate or something else. I think one of the other things I really like that you mentioned was the date night. I know Josh and I each have kids. He's got 3. I've only got 1, but man, with work and trying to build a business, and like now we're doing this podcast, it's so easy to just kind of let that just kind of fall to the wayside and be like an afterthought. But I definitely think it's important to prioritize that in your family, whatever that looks like. So I'm kind of glad you mentioned that, because I think that's been huge for us. And you really have to be intentional about that. Going forward, what kind of plans do you have for the business? We want to talk about one deal specifically, but just in general, kind of what do you have planned for the business going forward?
I want to buy all of the mobile home parks ever in places where, there's good landlord tenant laws. Like, I don't need landlord friendly as much as I need, this person isn't paying, then they need to go. Like that's it. I don't need like everyone talks about landlord friendly. That's I just want a fair and even playing field. That's it. You haven't paid, I'm sorry. Yeah, you have a sob story, because everyone has a sob story. I get it. I'm not heartless. But like, if you're not paying, you have to go. And that's where I want to buy mobile home parks.
So you're not looking to go to New York State. I have a friend out there who owns some properties, and somebody's been living there for, I can't remember how long he said. It's been several months without paying. And he said typical eviction proceeds will take about 8 months to 12 months on average. So not trying to go out there is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Not trying to go back to California and buy anything. I mean, I had an uncle who had a house, and like the people squatted in it. It's like they're professional tenants, right? So, tenants who know the system, and they cause a lot of pain. So I don't need headache.
We just had one of those in Wisconsin, and I was surprised even in Wisconsin how long the whole process took. And it was like, who knows? I don't know what the whole backstory was, but I very much got the feeling that this was, like you said, a professional tenant. So it's tough. Yeah. So can you kind of walk us through, like, if you're comfortable sharing numbers, that would be great. But just kind of walk us through your favorite deal.
Let's go back through my first deal, and I'll give numbers, because it's my favorite. Well, it's my favorite because I went in, I had no idea how I was going to get it done. Right. I was like, I know I want this. I don't know exactly why, but I'm pretty sure that this is the right direction that I want to be. So it was listed for $395. It was on market for like 6 months. I offered, again, per, oh, this is what Frank Rolfe says. This is how you evaluate, which is Frank Rolfe. How about shout out to Frank Rolfe and his podcast? He's amazing. Like he knows the business. He knows how to do it. So, but like per his numbers, there's 10 occupied at 125 lot rent. It should have been, the value was like 114. And so I made the offer around 114,000. I said, I'm sorry, this is so much lower, but this is what I can offer. And he saw that and he said, no. And he said, I can't do anything less than 250. And I said, 250? I said, okay. And at that point, like I had been hanging out with local real estate investors, like going to a morning meeting every Tuesday morning. And they're all like older Southern guys who are like super creative. And like, so I was around those kind of people. So when he said, I can do 250, I said, will you finance the whole thing? And he said, no, I can't do that, but I might be able to finance 50. So, okay. And so I left, again, nothing signed. And I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I knew, okay, well, what do we have to do? And so again, it was looking for a bank. So many banks said no. And eventually, the seller, his friend, he hooked us up with his friend. And we went to him and asked, for it. And he said, yeah, I'll give you 175. So that was a 70%, right? And so I went back to the seller and, I didn't have any money either. I was a nurse, but like, wasn't raised smart with money, So I said earlier how my dad saved everything. Well, my mom spent everything and I kind of took after her. So anyway, so I didn't have like money, but I have creativity. And so we got the bank loan for 175. I asked the seller to carry the 50, like if he would still do that. And he said, yes. He's like, I'll do the 50 at 5% over 5 years. And everyone listening to this, you might be like, oh, 5%, that's great. That's wrong. The real thing you should be thinking is that loan constant is high because of the 5 years. So what, like the lender, his friend, he was like, man, I'm putting the numbers together. You're not going to be able to make your payments for that. So I went back to him. I said, can we do interest only for a year? And he said, yes. So it was, all the DSCR requirements by the lender, everything was going to be good. We needed 25,000 left and then closing costs. And so we brought in a third partner for the 25. I had the closing costs. And then, we closed it. And it was crazy because the partner I was working with, I thought he had all this money. He dressed all flashy. And so I was like, he has experience. He knows what he's talking about. Anyway, the guy ended up, taking from us, stealing from the company and whatever, it sucks, but it happened and I learned from it. But so that's why we had to bring in the other partner with the 25 and it was crazy.
So let me just clarify a little bit. So this guy, the original number that the seller wanted was, did you say 695? There's no way I heard that right.
No, not 395.
Oh, 395. So. Okay. 395.
Yeah.
And so you offered less than half of what he wanted. I know to a lot of people making offers on houses, you had this little hesitation because you don't want to like offend the seller, but at the same time, your offer was very calculated. So what do you tell people who their calculation is way under what asking price is? Like, what do you tell them as far as strategy or just confidence in your numbers?
Show your math, and don't think. So I show people my math in that like my hopes are that someone's going to correct me. It's not like, this is my math. This is end all be all. Like, I hope that someone's like, oh, you made a mistake there. And then we can correct it real time. Oh, I can actually offer a little bit more because it's not, I'm trying to get the best price to screw you over and I want to win. It's like, no, dude, like if I'm making a mistake, let's, here it is. But I was talking to a broker and some sellers. And they wanted this price that was like $1.5 million higher than what I could offer. And I was like, well, let's talk about this because this is a loan I'm probably going to get because I'm closing another thing right now. It's probably going to be 9.2% at 30-year amortization, and it's probably going to be 65%. And then I'm going to have to raise the capital. I'm going to have to give my investors this probably at least an 8% pref. And like, let's just go. These are the numbers. This is what my payment's going to be, and this is what the NOI is. So in order for me to not be underwater and to just break even, I'm only at this number. That's why I'm $1.5 million less than you. But like, here it is. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. Tell me, and we can work on this together. It's not me versus you. It's us versus the problem of how you can sell this to me.
So we're gonna move on to the final segment we like to call the final four. I laugh every time I say that because we're trying to make it sound official. but the first one is, what's a top financial resource? What's a top financial resource that you found for nurses? Whether it's a book, podcast, whatever. And you're shouting out a lot of podcasts outside of this one. So I just request that when you go on to other podcasts, you shout us out as well a little bit.
I got to make a list. Yeah, I got to definitely. Every time I'm on a podcast and be like, this one.
Only request. No, I'm just kidding.
Listen to podcasts like this. Listen to Bigger Pockets. I like Bigger Pockets because it was like a lot of everything, and then just like deep dive. Put the money into yourself. Put the money into your learning, pay to be around people. The deal room, I forget how much it costs every month, but I pay to be in it, to be around people doing it. Action Academy, same. I forget how much it costs, but it's well worth it. Put the money into yourself. And take it from me, I am, as my brother and his wife call me, notoriously cheap in that I don't want to spend things. And it took me a long time to realize how much value I get from that, and how behind I was because I wasn't putting the little bit of money into my own development. So spend the time, read the books, listen to the podcasts, work on yourself. Those are the big things.
Yeah, I think we've kind of been doing that this year too, in terms of investing in coaching and groups and that kind of stuff. Josh is in GoBundance, which kind of, I feel like that was what really kicked a lot of this off for us. In terms of like investing in ourselves. And I guess I'm probably more on the notoriously cheap side myself, but I think it's like, I'm always like trying to wrap my head around like, oh, can we figure this out ourselves without spending the money? But it's really just about the people that you get in the room with, like you said earlier.
And it's a lot of them are very high ticket, and it's a lot of money, and it's really difficult to calculate what your return is going to be. But as soon as I've paid, or as soon as we've paid the money to get into these groups, like I said, it's hard to calculate the return, but it's there, and I feel it. I know it helps my motivation. Like you've talked to, just being around people that are doing really big things. Yeah, it'll pay itself back. Yeah. I know it.
Oh yeah,
it already has.
Yeah, and it's I don't put like a monetary ROI on it, because that's like overwhelming to me. I don't even know where I'd begin. But I put where's my life today versus where it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 1 year ago. I haven't been in Action Academy that long, but like my life today, it's more structured, and it's structured in a nice way where I'm not overwhelmed. So like, how do I put a monetary value on not feeling overwhelmed? I personally can't, but I like my life better, so it's worth it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, with that in mind, what would you tell yourself as a new grad?
As a new grad, it's funny that, it's like a whole different person. It feels like, because that was a long time ago. Stop drinking so much. How about that? That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right.
And like remember to be like, find something that excites you that's not drinking. Because I took a deep dive. I'm not the only nurse who has taken a deep dive. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
So enjoy the fun parts of life. Don't just make your life about work and then like waiting for the weekend. Find something that excites you.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. So it's number 3. What's your big goal for the next 12 months, and what can we do to help you get there?
So big goal for the next 12 months. Let's see. I I'm at just shy of 300 pads right now. Let's double it in 12 months. I want to do 3 big deals that are 100 plus pads in the next 12 months. What I want to do with my main group, but what I also want to do is work with newbies and like help people. You know, they say the best person to guide is you 3 years ago. So I'd love to like take down some deals with people who are like looking to get into the business. They got a little bit of hustle. They're excited about it, and I can just kind of guide them. I can't clone myself, and you know, time is a limited resource. So I need people who are excited. Like I want 10% of 10 deals rather than 100% of one deal. So if anyone is really interested, honestly, let's talk. Like I love helping new people. It's meaningful. It feels good to me. I like doing it. So how about that? Send people my way.
Will do. That sounds great.
Well, yeah, we'll plug all your socials and everything so people can reach out to you. But so the last question of the final 4 is, if you were to tell people to do one thing right now, what would you tell them to do that could kind of change the trajectory of their life?
Just take action. Take action. That's like, don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it. See like whatever asset class, whatever you want to do, like have that as an end goal and then take this first step, you know, read about it a little bit, but then take the action. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Like, so for me, like say you're like, man, I love multifamily real estate, but like, I need to know the ins and outs. No, you need to know the basics of underwriting. And then you just need to talk to brokers and submit letters of intent. And you need to hear no a lot of times. And that's it. That's the secret sauce. Hear 100 no's, and then you'll hear 1 yes. And then all of a sudden, you know, a year later, you'll be like, I closed on that property because I heard 100 no's. And like, if I didn't take that action, then I wouldn't be there. So do the thing like Brian says, you know, if you could find the 3 things that are going to move the needle for you and then do them.
All right. So bonus question. What is the biggest financial mistake that you've made? And tell us what you learned from it.
Yeah. When I quit nursing, I ended up spending over $50,000 in like, you know, a virtual wholesale like business that was like made, you know, it's like buying a business, and it wasn't all at once. But it ended up being over that. And, you know, it's not that it was a mistake, and it's not that it was something I shouldn't have done because I learned. But I think the thing I would tell myself is, if I don't love the process, if I don't love getting stuck and figuring out how to get out of problems, and like I don't love it other than I love the money, then to stay away from it, you know? And like, hey Tim, if you're into mobile home parks, just do that, you know? No, you can't 100% see how you're going to make money to like a monthly income, but just do it. Just like build yourself that bridge to Wealth Island, and don't try and go and do something else that looks sexy, because it doesn't work.
Yeah, I guess that's that chasing 2 rabbits and catching none deal, I guess. Yeah. So what other than mobile home parks, what else is exciting you out there in South Carolina these days? You said you're a musician. What else?
Yeah. What else do I need?
Yeah, I guess that's enough for most people.
So no, I mean, I don't do enough music writing like I used to. I'll send you guys a link to my Spotify. You can put that on the
awesome.
notes too. So, I mean, I got a band, you know, I write music sometimes, but really I'm focused on my business. I'm focused on my girlfriend. I'm focused on, you know, our life together, traveling, and like, yeah, just enjoying life, like not overwhelming myself, doing things slowly but surely. I am a like little by little, but like I just will keep moving. I don't overwhelm myself though. So that's it.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of Spotify and all your different platforms, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you and connect? Yeah.
Well, okay. So you can find me on Facebook, Tim Woodbridge. I'm sure you guys will put the links in. I want to say like timwoodbridge.54 or something. I hope that there's 53 more of Tim Woodbridges, because that's cool. On Instagram, I'm tim.woodbridge. On LinkedIn, I'm something I don't remember, but I'm on LinkedIn too. Tim Woodbridge something. And then my band is called Sleep War, like sleeping and war. Go check us out and say, hey, people don't have to be two-dimensional. Like no one's two-dimensional. Everyone's got something interesting that they're doing. So that's my other interesting thing besides real estate.
Cool.
So.
Well, it's been awesome. Thanks for coming on today and talking mobile home parks and nursing and everything else and music. Cool, man. Thank you. It's been great.
Thank you guys for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.